So page 4 is sort of your master list, and it is on the back of your little, your cheat sheet card. So if you still have your card, it should be on the back side of it. And we will start right with number 1. So number 1 is really about clarity. And are you going to make a liar out of me, or is it on the back of your tan? Okay. Good. So it's interesting to me that most marketers, and I find most copywriters, don't even have this stage. They skip this stage. Is they're really not clear about their overarching objectives that they have to achieve with their targets in order for anything to really be effective. So the example I gave you here is from the financial services industry. The 4 things that would be overarching objectives that they have to achieve for them to be able to achieve much of anything else, right? So these are stockbrokers, investment newsletter publishers, anybody dealing with you in any way, shape, or form about where you ought to put some money. They have to have you active. A passive investor is no good to them because they want you moving money. You know, so if you have money under management and you don't move any of it, the guy makes a point or two. If you move it a lot, he might make 8, 9, 10. He'll make more on your money that year than you will make on your money, which is exactly their objective. I'm not even passing judgment. I'm just telling you, what it is. So they want you to be an active investor. Okay. Secondly, they want you to act based on short-term information because that makes you more active. All right. So, oh crap, tech stocks are rising. I got to take some money out of P&G and I got to buy some tech stocks. Oh shit, tech stocks are crashing. I got to take some money out of my tech stocks and I got to move them over here before noon tomorrow into something else. That's the mindset they want you in. They want to create fear and anxiety because fear and anxiety causes people to move more than does anything else. So if you turn in Fox Financial and you see that there's a gradual upswing trend in direct sales company stocks, you are not going to run necessarily to the phone to call your guy and say, I got to get 20 grand in Herbalife right now. If you happen to hold Herbalife and you tune into Fox and there's 3 experts on there talking about any minute there could be a huge correction in direct sales company stocks and they're all going to crash, you are on the phone. So they want a constant fear and anxiety. By the way, if you clock it, if you just watch, you can even do it with one show, but if you watch, if you can bring yourself to do it, if you watch like any 3 nights of Kramer, the money guy, I'm talking, right? If you watch any 3 nights and you clock it, the ratio's very consistent. 1/3 of the show is about things going up. 2/3 of the show is about things going down. Okay? And so he is helping the cause. And they want to tempt you with new products that appear to offer increased returns without added risk, upside with no downside. And you will see the industry constantly creating this stuff or repositioning stuff they've got to fit this, right? So they will, so like right now, regardless of what you think about precious metals, it's a funny commercial to me. So the silver commercial, pay attention the next time so here's the pitch in the silver commercial. Silver has lost so much value, and they actually show you the chart, over like the last decade that you've got to buy silver now. This is the pitch. As if they weren't telling you to buy silver back here. Of course they were. They sell silver. So if you paid any attention to their advice, here, 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 or here, you're bleeding out your rectum. But now pay attention to my advice because it finally has crashed so badly. I made this mistake once with bank stocks. Like an idiot. And I'll never forget it. I'm sitting, and it's Carla's fault. Because I'm sitting in the concierge lounge at Boardwalk at Disney, and she's already supposed to have been here. We're supposed to be on our way. And they have the financial news show on, and there's 4 smart guys all saying bank stocks cannot go any lower. Same as the silver. It's the silver commercial. It's impossible. They have just hit rock bottom. She's a half an hour late, and I've bought 50 grand worth of bank stocks. And guess what? There's no bottom. They just kept moving. By the time we left Disney, I'm down twice that. You know, I'm going, Carla's going, you know, you're paying a lot of money for those shirts for the kids, you know, $15 or so. I'm going, you have no idea. You know. So you need this short list. You need this short list for your market and really for every time you write copy of what are the 3 or 4 or 5, short is key, overarching things that we have to make happen with these people for anything else we want to do to work. And then you got to make sure that everything you're doing is facilitating and supporting your short list, right? And that short list is about their psyche, about their mindset, about where they have to be mentally and emotionally to respond to the specifics of any pitch. Now, it can be about the way you want them to think or the way you don't want them to think, what you want to banish from thought. It can be either or both, but you've got to have clarity on it, right? So I probably irritated him a little, but I would assume Nelson would agree with this. They, in selling Christianity, do not want you having any positive thoughts whatsoever about reincarnation. This is not helpful, probably, to their cause. And it might well be, particularly if they are targeting, let's say they were going to target metaphysical believers in the area of their church and try and move them to the church. On their short list would be getting these people not to think about the fact that they get to come back 22 times until they get it right. Because they kind of need you to think you got to get it right now, or you're going to be down there with Lucifer, you know, in the heat. Vice versa, by the way. So everybody needs a short list. What can't we have them think? And what must we have them think? So like getting a kid to buy braces. See, the big issue is going to be delay. So that this person has got to think this gets worse and this gets more expensive if we wait for 6 months. Oh, we're all going on vacation to Europe for 3 weeks. We'll wait until we come back from the vacation. You know, there's a lot of reasons to wait, right? They've got to believe this is like, you know, cancer, crooked teeth. I mean, this is getting worse by the day, and it's going to be worse to fix and more painful to fix and more expensive to fix every minute you wait. It's like the fire alarm sale. They got to think tonight could be the night. Or, well, we're going to remodel the kitchen anyway. We'll do the fire alarm system when we remodel the kitchen. See, they got to think tonight could be the night, and that's on the short list because everybody believes A, it only happens in somebody else's house, and B, it's not going to happen now, right? That's what everybody believes, right? And statistics alone are not, the statistics alone are not persuasive. So the statistic is everybody will have at least one home fire during their lifetime. That's the statistic. But now, do you believe it's going to happen to you tonight? By the way, my little fire alarm story, and I get no commissions, but just for your benefit, how many of you have a smoke detector? You all got smoke detectors, right? It's been foisted on you. How many have heat detectors? Aha! So here's 5 minutes that has nothing to do with what we're doing, but it's advice for you. Go get heat detectors. 2/3 of the fires, by the time there's enough smoke to set the smoke detector off, you're dead. Okay? And the entire house is in flames. Okay? Smoke detectors don't detect heat. They only detect smoke. That's why they're called a smoke detector. However, the sprinkler systems in this hotel and in almost every commercial building, by law, they're heat detectors. They're not smoke detectors. Okay? There's a reason for this. So the thing that sets off the sprinkler, that's a heat detector. Okay? And it works just like the heat detector you can buy for your house. And it's the lowest tech item in the world. It doesn't wire into anything. It's a painted metal can. It's about this big. Okay? It's got a big metal spring wound up inside it real tight. And then it's got a little heat detector thing on the outside of it, just like the one that's on the sprinkler head in most commercial buildings. And when there's enough heat, the thing pops off. Here, the sprinklers would come on. In your house, this thing pops off, and that metal spring that's wound up inside the can comes loose and unwinds. And it makes a racket that can be heard for miles because the metal is banging against metal as it's unwinding. Bang, 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 and it wakes you up. That's a heat detector. And they're still expensive because they're sold by direct sales. So your average house, it'll cost you about $4,000 to put in heats. So it's worth every penny because in 2 out of 3 fires, at least your house is going to burn to the ground if you're relying only on smokes. You can also wire the heats in now to your system if you want to so that they set off the alarm and they notify the fire department. They'll do anything you want them to do basically when the thing pops off. Okay? But that's how simple it is. If you had the little doohickey, you could make it with a Maxwell House coffee can and a spring. The little doohickey is what's magic, of course. But hardly anybody has heats unless somebody has come and sold them heats. You buy them from a guy in your house? They were in the house when you got them. Okay. Hardly anybody has. I mean, they're not even sold at Home Depot. You can't go to Home Depot and find them because somebody has to tell you this whole story. And they also have to show you pictures of burnt kids and stuff in order to get you to buy them. But
nowadays they come in an alarm system.
well, some of the real sophisticated alarm systems now have heat built in. And the reason why it's built in is because 2/3 of the time it's going to be heat, not smoke. So,
Wouldn't the house sprinkler system already have
no.
the sprinkler?
No. There's only one company that makes the little doohickey. They have a patent on it. That's it. Everybody's got to get the little doohickey. Okay. If I had been lying, it would fall in this category. But still telling the truth, I just did something. I didn't invent it, but I made you aware of a problem you didn't know you had. And this is really what most selling is all about, right? I mean, we'd have a GDP of 3 if people only bought things they needed and already knew they needed. And we'd all be living in a little hut and you know, we'd ride to work on a bicycle, and the liberals would be real happy with us. Because 90% of the shit you own, you really don't need. And you got it because somebody made you think you had a problem you don't have. And then they sold you something. So, I mean, that's, you know, that's where we all make our livings. And Lasker's great line, oh, by the way, the Lasker book, if you don't read much advertising history, this one is worth reading. It's The Man Who Sold America. And it's a definitive biography of Lasker. So Lasker said there is no law, I would in parentheses put yet, that requires a problem to exist before a solution is created for it and sold to cure it. And he's, of course, entirely right. And so when you write copy, you need not restrict yourself to pre-existing problems. There's no requirement that says we have to do that. Nor do you have to deal with problems in perspective. You can take what is in perspective really a rather trivial matter, and you can make it a major matter because that ties to what it is that you want to sell. So for example, this is a current control. This is a 70-page direct mail piece. Looks like this. Self-mails. This is so it's a 70-page magalog. Right? And it sells a pill to take to help your sinuses. Now, I happen to have lifelong sinus trouble, but I will tell you, on the list of my problems, it has never been on the top 10. Right? But it gets a treatment here as if it was the worst medical problem on the planet, right? I mean, it's just horrible. I mean, the Mayo Clinic, for God's sake, is involved in trying to solve it. All of the stuff you use that you buy at the drugstore can kill you and has horrible side effects. It'll destroy your immune system. So if you have occasional sinus problems, your whole immune system is going to hell, and you're going to get cancer and diabetes and heart disease and every other thing. The fact that you're tired is all because of your postnasal drip, right? So the fact that you need a nap in the afternoon or can't get an erection or fall asleep during the basketball game is all because your sinuses are screwed up. There are 10,000 biological invaders that enter your nose every day and get trapped in there. So this is like the dust mite story, right? You guys all know the dust mite story. You don't know this? Okay, so this is how you'll see it in TV commercials if you pay attention. You don't watch TV, do you? Because you're 20, yeah. If you sell to somebody who's not 20, you might want to watch some TV. So the dust mite story is used to sell a new mattress every how many years? Okay, yeah, so your mattress doubles in weight every 10 years from these evil dust mites, which if you magnify them 5 million times, they look like giant cockroaches, okay? Now they're actually the size of a molecule, right? A piece of dust, you know, but if you magnify them, they look like cockroaches. They're also used to sell like carpet cleaning and stuff, because a carpet cleaner can clean your mattress and your couch. And the great picture, we're going to talk about pictures last. The great picture is a crawling baby on the bed with the blown up dust mite as big as the baby. Okay? That's like the great picture. His mom goes, holy shit. And the great vacuum cleaner demo is empty bag, clear canister, and just use the vac against the mattress. Oh my God. There's all of your dead skin that came off over the years, and there's these horrible dust mites, and there's, whatever else is in there, and including some stuff that actually was put in the mattress when it was made, chalk dust, God knows, and it all comes out and fills the canister in the vacuum cleaner, and you say, I am never sleeping or having sex on that thing again until we solve this problem. It's horrible, right? Well, this is the same deal. This is 10,000 horrible. I mean, look at the size of these things. I mean, if 10,000 of these things are coming up inside your nose every day, your head's going to explode, for Christ's sake, right? I mean, and so this is 70 pages taking for most people, an utterly insignificant problem. In many cases, it's so insignificant to them, they didn't really even know they had it. And now it is making it the most. See, so here's for people who don't know they have it. Okay? Sinuses, however you say it, can sneak up on you. Bacteria secretly sneaks into your system. The eyes, nose, and mouth all provide openings where deadly biological invaders can sneak in. Right? So this is 2 pages for people, they didn't even have a symptom. Now they do. Now they do. All right? By the time you're done with this, you got these symptoms. This is great. Johns Hopkins Hospital warns a bleeding brain and spinal fluid leaks. ... Down here in fine print somewhere, I'm sure they disclaim that if your nose drips once in a while, that's actually not going to cause the problem. Jesus, it also causes numbness in your teeth. How do your teeth feel? A serious outbreak of infections. It's great. It's brilliantly written, No. Oh, this is good. Look at this picture. I mean, it's great. It's wonderful. And it ultimately gets to, I think it's a good, better, best offer, isn't it? Probably, yeah. So it's good deal. So it's an inventory load because they know you're not going to reorder because the stuff doesn't do anything. So, by the way, that's a tip-off in the alternative health industry. If they're not doing continuity and they're doing inventory load, you ain't going to feel a thing. I'm going to tell you right now. Maybe it does something, but you ain't going to feel it. So we better get the money while we can get it. So the best deal is a $206 load. The good deal is $126, and the trial offer, which is one little box, is $46.90, and free reports and so forth. So, but think about this. This is 70 pages about occasional sinus issues. So there's no law that says your use of it needs to be proportional or reasonable in perspective to the actual impact of the problem in somebody's business or somebody's life. In fact, it shouldn't be. Whatever it is you're doing should be magnified in importance to be the number one destroyer, killer, evil, threat, or if you must, opportunity, potential for gain in their life at this moment. That's where you need to get. I talked at Super Conference about the start of all this. I mean, this is back to the turn of the century, is when these kinds of pitches, and mostly it was a guy standing on a crate next to a horse and wagon that came to town, but it was the same kind of deal. And in the 1920s, this kind of advertising really took off. People began to talk about bodily functions who did not, and we never talked about bodily functions before. And by the way, once we let that out of Pandora's box. We are now to the point, I mean, a night of television is 30% talking about bodily functions. I really rather would not, I mean, the woman is dripping urine every place she's going, and the guy can't get an erection, and really, I just wanted a half hour of comedy before I went, I just, So it all started in the 20s, right? And Listerine was one of the first guys to do it. So Listerine was a failing product, sold in very small quantities as a surgical antiseptic to hospitals, right? So the ad writers for Listerine created bad breath. Nobody knew they had bad breath before. And of course, most people really didn't have bad breath. Now everybody's got bad breath. We all got it, right? And we all do all kinds of stuff for it, right? So you use mouth-colored water 3 times a day. You got little tongue strips you carry around in your pocket, which have been dipped in Listerine. I mean, but nobody knew. And apparently, people were still getting pregnant. I mean, despite it, but so when they invented, in 1922, they invented bad breath. And in 1 year, their ad spend went from virtually zero, because all they were doing was selling this stuff to hospitals, to $5 million a year. This is 1922, 23. $5 million a year. Who's in the financial services? Larry, what's $5 million in 2016 money? You're supposed to know the multiple. You're in the business. What's the matter with you? Lang, where are you? Come on, our financial people. Really? Nobody knows?
A factor of about 40.
Okay, so it's $200 million, right, in ad spend, right, in 1 year from zero, by creating bad breath. They were in 80 magazines, 300 newspapers, and they produced a profit of $4 million on that product. And they did it with you. I think you have, yeah, you got these ads. So I'm like on page 11, right? Don't fool yourself that you never have halitosis, as do so many self-assured. What's that? What's that paragraph from yesterday? Thank you. It's gaslighting. That's exactly right. Don't fool yourself that you never have halitosis, as do so many self-assured people who constantly offend this way. Right? Because, at this point, we're just inventing bad breath. Nobody thinks they got it. Right? And while people talk to me, I get laid, I sell shit. What are you talking about? So we got to make them unsure of themselves. Here's a demo. Look down in the lower right corner. Here's demonstration. Right? Rub a slice of onion on your hand, then apply Listerine. Immediately, every trace of onion odor is gone. They got a demo in here. See, so if you go back to yesterday's list and you take a look at the samples when you get home, you can find a lot of yesterday's list. This is one of their better ones. Could I be happy with him in spite of that? And 14, often a bridesmaid, but never a bride, right? If only she didn't have bad breath. Might stop a guy from marrying her. It's not going to stop her from having an active sex life, but it's going to stop. Athlete's foot. It was invented in 1930 by a copywriter. And the first product sold for a treatment for athlete's foot was Absorbine Junior, the liniment, which is diluted DMSO, I think. The liniment, we use it on horses. You used it for arthritis pain. Guess what? It also cures athlete's foot. Body odor was created by the John Powers ad agency or by Ruff and Ryan, another ad agency. There's an argument about who got there first in 1928. None of these came from the medical world. They came from the advertising world. They were a solution for a problem that did not yet exist, at least in anybody's minds or awareness. So some people, by the way, will ask me about business niches. Somebody asked me yesterday if it was either real estate or dentistry, if there was room for another, prophet, another guru, another advisor. And one answer to that is always, if you can figure out a new problem that they didn't know they had, that nobody else is fixing, of course there's room for you, right? And there's a world full of problems that can be created. Number 3, part of my answer to you this morning. See, I told, Ron's not there. So stacking. So in copy, the order in which we do things matters, just as it does in a one-to-one sales presentation. The order in which we do things matters, and it can matter a lot. And so how you figure out what order you're going to put things in is at least as important as what it is you choose to say or write. And so my process, again, is to shuffle the deck. So my process is to have a single sentence, a single paragraph, a headline, a subhead, a whatever, every one of them on a single sheet, so I can keep reordering them and reordering them and reordering them until I have the raw copy in an order to now go back and stitch it together and bridge it and finish it and write it. So this is from, I think it's from our last call, Jim. So you'll get the first one probably easily. You may not get the second one so easily. So if you have to make a choice, which of these should be first? How to make your IRA worth at least an extra $1 million, or steps you must take before the presidential election and the new president wipes out the #1 retirement benefit for making you and your heirs wealthy with the stroke of an executive order pen. And we're going to use both of them, but which should be first? How many vote for one? Really? You vote for the first one? No. Everybody else either got it right or didn't vote. Oh, no, the second. No. Most of the time you want to play your ace first. This is the ace. First of all, it's scarier than shit. Second of all, it's timely, right? So we're using current news, right? And we've played a different emotional card. The first one is how to make your money worth more. The second one is about you and your heirs. So if we're in the financial services business, who are we selling to for the most part? Boomers and seniors. And for the most part, if they got enough money to manage, they're pushing 60. And they start to care about what happens after they're gone. See, you're 20. You don't give a crap what happens after you're gone. First of all, you don't think you're ever going to be gone. And beyond that, who cares, right? When you get to be like 68, people give you a sweater for Christmas, you return it, and you put the money in a little piggy bank for your grandkids. That's how old people behave, right? So this really matters to them. Okay? So yeah, this goes first. Now it gets a little tougher when you got to make the decision on page 17, because there's 4. Okay? So there's proven, invulnerable, ironclad type of, well, you can read it. The second, Congress is out to steal your thing. The third is how Congress plans to make your heirs pay for their inheritance and your already taxed retirement savings. And the last one is actually what is actually going on. So here finally we got to the actual situation, the death of the stretch IRA. There's new laws coming that are somehow going to screw all that up, right? So now if you have to make a choice, which of these are you going to lead with and put first? How many think B? How many think B? Okay. How many think A? You should be sitting next to each other. How many think C? Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. The strongest card here is C because it has more things in it, right? It's the heirs trigger. It's anger. You've already paid taxes on this stuff. It's Congress, who everybody hates. They have the lowest approval rating. Incredibly, they have a lower approval rating with the public than either Hillary or Trump. I mean, you got to do something to have a 22% public approval rating, right? Dead Hitler's at 24. I mean, and Congress is at 22. I mean, so if you want to demonize somebody, they're it, right? Already taxed. They pisses you off, doesn't it? You've already paid taxes on it. That's not up here. It's not here. I got Congress here, but I don't have already taxed here, right? It's all good, but it's still make their heirs pay for. So if you microanalyze how many little buttons you push, you're going to arrive at C. Well, it also solves that problem, right? Is you would think if you got one, you know you got one and you know what it is. I wouldn't necessarily bet on that. I mean, you know, it is insider, it's industry terminology, right? Retirement savings. Now, if all you want is IRA holders, which is all he wants, then I have opened the doors for some crap to flow in that has to be shoveled back out the other side that is of no value to me. But if I also get some good stuff that I wouldn't have got otherwise, it's worth shoveling the crap, right? So not only is this, you know, copy issues here, but now what order, because I'd use them all in any kind of a long presentation, but where do they belong, right? That's the game. In absence of any other formula, it says a blue star, it's not in your book. In the absence of any other reason for a different formula, here's a stacking formula to use. A dark item, an embellishment, an even darker item, a darkest item, light at the end of the tunnel, light at the end of the tunnel, and then finally personal positive benefits. So on 18, Dave, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it, move on, and I'm going to come back to it right before lunch is what I'm going to do, okay? Okay. So Trump stacks items in every speech. So if you pay attention, he stacks them the same way every single time. So on page 18, how does he stack these items? Almost every time he makes a reference to any of them, he makes a reference to all of them, and he stacks them in the same way every time. He doesn't have to be a prompter to do it. He does it the same way every time. For the sake of time, I'll give it to you. You can number them. They are pouring across our border is number one. Number two is about who they are, which is darker. We are getting the drug dealers, the criminals, the rapists, and Mexico is getting our money. That's second. Third, if we don't have borders, we don't have a country. That's darker still. 4, we're going to build a wall. 5, he now doesn't say it. He gets the audience to say it. And who's going to pay for the wall? And everybody goes, Mexico! Mm-hmm. He stacks them the same way. Virtually every time I've seen him do it, he stacks it in the exact same order. No randomness to this at all. Same with what's on page 19. Here's the items. Here's the stack. 1 goes next to, we have terrible trade deals. We're getting our butt kicked by everybody. We're not winning anymore. 2, companies are moving jobs to, and then stick a place in. Sometimes he names every place. Sometimes he names the place that a company in the state he's in has moved a job to. If he's in Indiana, Carrier's moved their factory to Mexico. When he was in California, it's all about Apple getting your phones made by slave labor in China, but one or the other. By the way, there's not a liberal on earth who should be carrying a smartphone, because they are being made by slave labor in China. Children who can't, they had bars on those windows, and the factories are real tight so the little kids can't crawl out and jump. And the third thing is, I'm going to bring our jobs back from wherever. Sometimes he names every place. I'm going to bring our jobs back from China, Vietnam, Mexico. Sometimes he names the place that links to the place he just used. 4th, I'm going to be our greatest jobs president ever. And then 5, he gets, and that's more recent, he gets to his little rap on, we're going to put America first. His latest incarnation of this started yesterday, which is, for decades, the Clintons have been putting America last and putting the Clintons first. I'm going to put America first. But it's still 5th in this little hierarchy. So he keeps tweaking the copy, but he hasn't changed the stack. Doesn't mean he won't, but it strongly suggests it's not accidental. It strongly suggests this is not accidental. Then the last one on page 20 is this stack. So what's number 1? What's the first thing he does on this stack? So it's either or. That's right. It's either our airports are terrible, we're in a third world country, you can't believe I fly into, and then he names one that's a rat hole, and then I fly into Bahrain, and or he starts with our roads, our bridges, our cities, and then he does the airports. He pretty much does both every time, and they're flippable. You're right. 3rd is, I'm going to be the greatest infrastructure president. Sometimes he says, I'm going to be the greatest roads and bridges president. And he usually then, who knows more about building stuff than I do? That's almost always 4th. And depending on time, he'll embellish that, right? I mean, or where he is, he'll talk about, like he's in Washington, in Virginia last night, so he talked about the post office building in Washington, because Washington and Virginia are really one place, but it's all, who knows more about building shit than I do? Nobody. For the post office, it's all going to be done early, and it's all coming in under budget, yada, yada, yada. Then 6th, he sticks in his, you're going to be so proud. And then fill in the blank. You're going to be so proud of me. You're going to be so proud of America. You're going to be so proud of our airports. You're going to be so, okay? Then 7th, he gets to the hat, right? We're going to make America great again. Sometimes now he's not doing that one either. He's doing the, so what are we going to do? And everybody yells, we're going to make America great again. They've already memorized the last one. Okay? That's his stack. It suggests, because he stacks it the same way every time, this was not an accident. Now, he may have got to it by accident. He may have tried it 4 or 5 different ways early. I haven't gone back and looked, but it's locked in now. Right? And that's what you want to do. Right? Especially when you're communicating with the same audience again and again. There should be an overarching way that you stack the things you want them to know and buy into that you stay with. However you change the flesh and the costume on the bones, the skeleton should stay the same. It should not be random or accidental. Number 4, a lot of fun. And so I'm going to talk about it a little bit, and then Dave is going to give you some more sort of demonstration on this. And he is a practitioner of it. I am only a thief of it for copywriting purposes. So number 4 is about cold read. If you do not know what this is, that's what the fortune tellers we had here, whether they were good or bad, I don't know, but they were basically living off of a cold read. So a cold read is your deductions about someone, either based purely on your skill of deduction or ideally cheating by getting some sort of information in advance, which got easier for people in this business today because everybody puts all their shit up on Facebook. So they used to have to go to much greater extremes. The guy in that book you sent me was having people stationed across the street from where people were lining up to come in and get their readings with big parabolic listening devices in order to overhear their conversation and then run around and slip, some information. But so if you see, what's the big criminal now, if you see John Edwards or the fat woman who's on, Dr. Phil once in a while, who talk to the dead, and they help you communicate with your dead aunt or whatever. They're doing a cold read on you. That's what they're doing. And in many cases, because they're one-to-one, they get to like experiment. So they can say, there's an older gentleman, and if there's no reaction in your eyes, oh no, I meant it, maybe it's an older woman, and now your eyes, right? So you just told them, and they were wrong, but it's okay, because they were right on the second try, right? So,
Yeah, and Dan, the TV shows, if you see like John Edwards on TV, it's so heavily edited. He's doing all of that stuff in front of the live audience.
yeah.
But then they edit it so it's just all hits.
Yeah, so it's not all hits in a live performance, but like he's on the road doing live shows. 2 times ago when I was in Atlantic City, he had the place packed, by the way. 800 people at whatever the ticket price was, who were all there hoping he's going to pick on them and help them communicate with their dead dog or their dead aunt or their dead, whatever. And now again, there's pre-existing, tendency to believe. So most people go to that show because they believe that can happen. That helps. They desperately want to believe because so Houdini totally disbelieved this and spent the last 10 years of his life debunking all this stuff. And yet, at the same time, he kept trying to find somebody who was real because he very much wanted to talk to his dead mama. And so people want to believe this stuff. And, they were here for just entertainment, right? And most of you took it as that. But if somebody goes to their building and pulls up in a parking lot with a psychic sign on it and goes in and buys a psychic reading, 9 out of 10 times, they either believe or they really want to believe. And so the cold read can even be a little clumsy, and it still is okay, right? So the cold read is very powerful, and it can be moved into what we do in copy, and it should be a lot. So page 22 are a couple basic examples. Okay? Now these are actual cold read scripts that the person in the booth here I forget how long we've been here, Wednesday night. The person in the booth, it's all a blur, by the way, after about halfway through the second day, I don't know. And 40 years of this, I have no idea, but it is Wednesday night, wasn't it? Yeah. So the ones that were here Wednesday night, this is stuff they might have used. This is right out of cold read scripts. But it could easily be moved to copy. And these are like fail-safe scripts because they play both sides of the coin. And you let it be a hit, whichever side works, right? I see you are at a time of your life when certain new decisions are in order. Who isn't? Right? I haven't yet decided what I'm going to eat for dinner tonight. I honestly don't know. And I'm not sure if I'm going to go to the track and watch my horse race or go straight home because the dog will have been alone all day. I got to figure this out by the time we're done today. Son of a bitch, this person knew I was working on that. Amazing. Amazing, right? Amazing. You are at a kind of a. So we're not even going to say you're at a crossroads. You are at a kind of a crossroads and need to make a choice soon. What's soon? It's whatever, right, we want it to be. Next one. You are usually, not always, a person of strong character and determination, yet you are at times a wimp. Both sides of the coin. The person reading it, or hearing it in this case, gloms on to whichever side of that is right. Ignores whichever side of that is wrong, right? And it's all weasel language. This sometimes leads to yada yada. Here are what are called Barnum statements on page 23. So these are cold read statements that almost everybody will agree with. This is, by the way, also astrological forecast stuff. See, it doesn't matter, by the way, whether you do it with tarot cards or red, white, and blue poker chips, or none of that crap matters. This is what's being done. You have a need for people to like and admire you. It's important to you. Who doesn't? And obviously, this could lead into a pitch for, we could sell How to Win Friends and Influence People right off the back of that statement, right? You have a tendency to be critical of yourself. Who doesn't? Well, Trump. But, it's a short, not the most introspective human on the planet. But most people are, at least in some ways, self-critical. There's something about you don't really like. You wish you had hair. You know, somebody next to you with not much wishes they had the courage to just shave it all off and go bald. There's something we don't like our nose. We don't like the fact that we don't know a foreign language. We wish we knew more about wine because we go out to dinner once a month with this couple, and he's a real wine asshole, and we're sick, right? So there's something, right? You have a tendency to be critical of self. You have a great deal of unused capability which you have not turned to your advantage. Now, this sentence, by the way, this is a sentence that is like, there's a story about the psychic who goes to the king and says, all your friends are going to be dead, and you're going to finish out your life all alone, and he kills the guy, and the next guy comes and says, you are in such great health and such a terrific physical specimen, you are going to outlive all your friends, and he gives that guy $1 million. It's the same thing, right? You have a great deal of unused capability which you have not turned to your advantage, which means you're a sloth, right? You are frittering away your life and your capability, and you're a lazy schmuck. But that's not going to be well received. Then there's some more reverse Barnums that take both sides of the coin. So these get extended. You have a tendency to be critical of yourself, yet you can at times be bold and outspoken and have others turn to you for leadership. Now, what's significant about almost all of them is that they are telling people something they like hearing about themselves, and then using that. So all of that can migrate right into copy. You could read this on your own. I gave you a couple of examples. And what is this from? This is from Win Trillions. So this is selling people on why they ought to gamble on the lottery. So if you look at page 24, you will see Barnum statements. You'll see a cold read. I believe you are the kind of person who secretly dreams of a big windfall of cash. This is a very safe cold read in this circumstance because this person has come to a website called Win Trillions. They have logged on to a website called Win Trillions. It is about playing the lottery. I do not have to have any psychic capability whatsoever to say, I believe you are the kind of person it ain't much of a secret, who secretly dreams of a big windfall of cash. The person goes, wow. Life-altering money that can change everything. You long for freedom, adventure, maybe world travel. So how safe a cold read is that? So travel giveaways are the most popular giveaways of all. Always have been, always are. Nothing works better than free trip to Vegas, free cruise, free whatever. Nothing works better. The prizes everybody wants when they go on a game show is they want to go somewhere. There used to be a show before you were born called The Dating Game. Very popular show. So The Bachelor and The Bachelorette are sort of the dating game extended and made really sleazy. But the dating game was sleazy enough. So one person of some gender would be behind a wall. So let's say it's a guy, it's you. And there would be, was it three? Yeah, so there'd be three women who all now get to ask you questions. They can't see you, but they get to ask you questions and you answer. And then they decide whether they're going to go on a date with you or not. And the date is like a prize. So it's like you get to go spend a weekend with somebody you just met and ask 5 questions on this show. And the show's chaperone goes with you to make sure you don't have any fun in case the date works out. But it's probably going to be torture. But that was the entertainment, right? And the reason people put themselves through all this was the free trip. That's why people put themselves through this. So this is a very safe cold read, maybe world travel, right? Then, so they don't feel ashamed of themselves for responding to this appeal, I've put in, but probably also the ability to help others that you can't afford to help now. And actually, look, most people, if they hit the lottery, they spend some small sum of it, just like the football player who gets the contract. They all buy a house for their mother. Now, they also buy 6 Lamborghinis and, a year's supply of Coke and, But I mean, they usually go buy a house for their mother, right? You are not a freeloader at all. See, this is now, if you go back to yesterday's list, this is making it okay to try and win the lottery. You're not a freeloader. You've worked hard. You've paid your dues. You've been a model citizen. You may still work hard now. You're an honest, ethical, productive person. The worst criminal in the world says, I'm an honest, ethical, productive person. All right? Yet, you found it very hard to ever get very far ahead financially. Safe cold read. They're at a site called Win Trillions. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, you deserve a big break. Who doesn't think they deserve a big break? Right? What week aren't you walking around thinking, it should be easier by now, damn it. Right? One day, just one stinking day, everything ought to fall in place. I deserve it. I'm kind to animals. I slow down when there's an old person. If I'm right about you. So this is all cold read copy. It's right out of cold read scripts. So it's right out of a swipe file of cold read scripts and Barnum statements. Here's some more, starting on page 25. Now here's, like from your list yesterday, here's a little transparency. Okay? You were invited. We reached out to you. You've been chosen. Now, if you stop there, it's not really believable, right? So I explain it. Frankly, we do a lot of what is called data mining. We obtain and evaluate information about people to find those most deserving of an outstretched hand of goodwill, a lift up in life at the time they are most ready and likely to accept it. Now, that's a translation for, we do a lot of data mining to find people who are, we skipped over it yesterday, who are highly susceptible right now to you should play the lottery. But we don't say it that way because that's a little too much transparency, right? We do a great deal of research, okay? We reassure so they don't get rattled. We never share our information with anybody. So we know certain things about you. The whole next paragraph's another, it's more cold read stuff. For one thing, we know you are kind and generous almost to a fault. Is that a safe cold read line? Who could you say it to who would disagree with it? Because that's me. And everybody has somebody in their life they're being generous to a fault to. Everybody. You are neither greedy or selfish. Who's going to say I'm a greedy, selfish son of a bitch? Nope, nope, you got me right. It's amazing, right? We make it okay again. Of course, we want you to enrich yourself and raise yourself, yada, yada, yada. Familiar. They all know Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling. I've pulled a familiarity thing to use. So this is a lot of, and we won't go through the other, but I gave you 2 more pages. This is a lot of cold read copy worked into this sales letter. Now I get to, and I have to eventually get to, the thing. Here's how this works. You sign up, you get a free membership in the Win Trillions Club, which allows you to have access to all the lotteries in the world, and you can buy 1 ticket, you can buy 10 tickets. I got to get to all that, right? And I got to get to all the features and benefits. You don't have to go down to the convenience store in the rain with a bunch of cash in your pocket and worry about getting mugged. You do it all online. You can make sure you never forget your numbers because you can lock in and all. I got to get to all that. But I get to it a long way. How long is the main VSL?
52 minutes.
It's 52 minutes. Now, we may have to scale it back. I don't know yet. But we're starting at 52 minutes. Where's the split? About 2/3 in when I start doing product?
No, it's but 20 minutes to the end, you start on the...
Okay, so 32 minutes of that is this stuff. It's literally the VSL sitting across from you in the little booth out there with the crystal ball and the tarot cards talking to you about you. That's what it is. And then the last 20 minutes are, okay, here's how this thing works. Isn't that cool? Now, we may have to scale it. I don't know. 52 minutes is long. But by the way, back to modus operandi, I never write to a length or a page count. I write to maximum effectiveness. Now, if I now feel I know I've gone too far, but who the hell would sit down to start with and say, I'm going to write 70 pages about a sinus pill? Nobody, right? And no client would let him. The client would come in the door and say, I want a 16-page sales letter, I want a reply card, and I want an order form. That's what the client would say. No client's going to come in the door and say, I want 77 pages about a sinus pill. It doesn't happen. Trust me. It's a fight. No client comes in and says, I want a 52-minute VSL about buying these lottery tickets. You know what he wanted? A better landing page. That's what he wanted. This is what he's winded up with, right? He probably doesn't even like it. Right? I don't care, right? And now we'll start here. And now we know when they're going to bail, when they bail out, right? So if I have to fix this, I'll fix it. But the person most susceptible to this is okay with almost any length. So if we can fix that part of the problem and we can drive the most susceptible people to it, we're going to be fine. I'm going to interrupt it. We're going to come back to it right before lunch with Dave's stuff. Hijack number 5. Answering the real objection. So if you have human salespeople, they screw all this up. And you really ought to help them. But it's even worse at a distance through media, through copy, because we can't get a read. So just like I can say, I'm seeing kind of an older gentleman and I don't see any response in his eyes, I can say, oh, no, I think it's an older lady. His eyes flicker a little, boom, I know I'm right on, right? Well, salespeople can do the same thing, right? So if I start to answer your objection one way and you are not responding to me, I can shift gears and start to answer your objection another way. And maybe the third time I finally get it right. That will be okay in most one-on-one selling environments. When I have to do it at a distance in media, there's no feedback loop. The feedback loop is either you keep reading and buy or you don't, and I don't have an opportunity to do anything about it. So it is even more important to diagnose, to deduce, to try and understand what the real objection is, not the objection they would necessarily say to you if they were sitting across from you one-to-one. Because more often than not, people express their resistance differently than what their resistance really is, right? So the classic example, when I worked with Miracle here, is with transcripts of these sales presentations. And at now the money discussion, this very older, this guy's 70s, when he's hit with the price, which is roughly $8,000 if you're putting one in both ears, he says, gee, I wasn't planning on spending that much money on myself right now. The salesman goes into a price value answer. So he takes this as a price objection. And he is now answering it with how the shit's made in the USA. Well, first of all, yeah, I know, it's expensive, but this is the start of his answer. The guy didn't say anything about it being expensive. He expressed no opinion whatsoever about that. So the salesman immediately makes it worse. Yeah, I know it's expensive, but. We could have lived without the whole but, you know. Then he's into justifying the price. It's made in the USA, it's made out of palladium, it's got 46 patents, it's guaranteed. He's justifying the price. Right then, what the guy said. The guy said what I said about the sweater. He said, I'm 72 years old. I got grandkids. My kids are morons. I'm worried about the grandkids having enough money to get to college. I'm just saving every penny. I don't really want to spend any money on me. I'm one step away from death anyway. You know, if I can't hear, I can just turn the TV up. It's not a big, you know, that's what he's saying. And what he's looking for is somebody to make it okay for him to spend this money on himself. What he was plaintively saying is, I'd really like to hear. That's why I came down here, right? But I'm not going to feel good about taking $8,000 out of the grandkids' college fund in the bottom drawer of my dresser. I'm going to feel guilty forevermore unless you help me with this. Help me. That's what he's really saying. And so the guy completely bungles this. Now, technically, if you took his objection answer out of context, other than starting with agreeing that it's expensive, the rest of the answer was like technically okay. It was just the wrong answer. Right? And so this happens all the time. If you got salespeople, they're doing it like all the time. And the more they have gotten good at an answer to so they are, you know, if all you got is a hammer, every problem is a nail, right? So if you got a salesperson who's really good at handling price objections, he's going to make a lot of crap into price objections that aren't price objections. If he's really bad at empathy, he's going to answer every objection as if it was a price objection. Conversely, if he's really good at everything's a humanistic, emotional problem, he's going to take a price objection and turn it into some kind of giant emotional, you know, traumatic thing. And he's going to be talking to him about, their inner child, when what they really wanted to hear was, how come this thing's $8,000? You know, so it's important to figure out. So first of all, go make a list of all the objections, all the what would be stated objections in your world to getting people to do whatever it is you are trying to get them to do. Then give some thought to what the possible true meanings of the objection might be. And make sure in your copy you are raising and answering. Now you got to do all the possible real objectives, one way or another. Then you got to go back now to where should they be. So a lot of people clump them. That's like, I mean, there's a reason to do it, but it's usually done because the copywriter's lazy. So they will usually do a frequently asked questions and answers thing, all clumped together at the end of a sales presentation. That's what they'll usually do. If you understand that we're dealing with salesmanship in print, when we're dealing with media, that's not how objections take place in a human give and take. They get raised along the way. There may be some raised at the very end when the guy finally balks, but they get raised along the way. They're part of the conversation. The guy doesn't hold them all, and then at the end, okay, do you have, and he's got a list of 7, and then you answer them. That's not how selling works. Therefore, it's not how selling in media should work either. So most people are lazy about it, and they're answering the wrong objections. I gave you a copy example from the orthodontist 2 stuff. You can look at it on your own. I got number 6. This relates to the sequential agreement, sequential submission thing we talked about yesterday. And part of what that is about, part of what the 11 agreements example I gave you is about, is stopping people from disqualifying themselves, which is what almost everybody is doing while they are reading copy, watching a video sales letter, watching a webcast. Again, if you go back to the 11 agreements, it's relatively easy to get people past the first 3 or 4. That, yeah, it's possible, and yeah, it's attainable, and yeah, it would be good for a lot of people. But then they start to disqualify themselves. Yeah, for all those other people, but not for me because. Okay? And so they will start, they'll essentially let the proposition slide. Okay, you can get rich and secure your retirement outside your dental practice by doing smart things with real estate. Okay, I get it, right? But then they will start to disqualify themselves, not the proposition, themselves. I can't do it because I got 5 practices and I'm running from one office to the other office all day, and every day by 4 o'clock in the afternoon I'm just gasping for breath and I got to go home and lay on the floor until tomorrow morning. So I can't even look on the computer at a listing, you know. I mean, so they will start to, I'm shitty at math. I can't do math. I could never do this because I can't do math. So that's how everybody disqualifies themselves from like doing a lot of their own marketing, right? I can't write. All right? I mean, I can't write a grocery list. I flunked English. You know, I could never do an essay. So none of this now can work for me because I can't do that, right? So they will start to disqualify themselves. Now, again, what most of us do as salespeople or marketers or copywriters is we defend the proposition. So we're worried about them not accepting the premise, the proposition, the thing we are insisting they can do. And we neglect the personal disqualification. They actually get ahead of us. we're still arguing the merits of what it is we want them to do. They already accepted that. They're arguing with themselves about themselves. So, like courses. So if you go back to my magnetic marketing speech, I raise a fact that most would choose to hope just didn't occur to anybody. And that fact is, you've come to a zillion seminars before, and you have taken a crap load of notes, and you never looked at the notes again. And you have bought a bunch of courses, and you have taken them home, and you have put them on a shelf, and you've never taken the shrink wrap off. Well, you would think if you're selling a binder of notes with shrink wrap on it, you might not want to raise that issue. But you have to, because they all got there. Most of them got there before I finished talking about what's in the notebook. They already said to themselves, okay, so think of everything that had to happen. Okay? I have borrowed authority because I'm on a stage in front of 25,000 people who paid to be there. I've been with Zig and President Bush and the CEO of this. I got all kinds of authority. Two of the speakers before me who had authority said, you got to stay in here, Kennedy, because he's got the greatest shit since sliced bread. Right? So I got all that going for me. I've addressed problems they have and don't like and agitated them. I've been funny, they kind of like me. So I got all that. So they've said essentially to themselves, okay, I don't really thoroughly understand it, but whatever the hell is in that notebook works. Okay? They're there. Okay? Here's where they stop. And they say to themselves, yeah, but I got a shelf full of notebooks that I didn't do shit with. I know me, I ain't going to do shit with this either. All right? That's where they stopped. So if you don't deal with their disqualifying of themselves, you leave out half the story. Half the story is about them. And by the way, it doesn't matter how successful they are. They could be doing $1 million a month. And if they go to seminars, they took a bunch of notes they haven't used. And they bought a bunch of stuff they haven't taken the shrink wrap off. We know this for fact. We validate it every once in a while. So we just, and I'm supposed to remind you, you guys were asking me about or asking Vicki about the CD set from the media summit that I mentioned. There's order forms out there now. And so the first 20 or so that got shipped, only the first of the CDs was actually duplicated with sound. All the rest of it was blank. One person called. Now 27, and because we're nice guys, Pete went into overdrive to fix this problem and send out new ones. At 2,700, the math really suggests just wait for them to call. Because 2,600 of them you'll never hear from. You'll never have to fix this problem. I mean, because, and these are not unsuccessful people. We're all guilty, right? I mean, so if you don't take that disqualification away, if you're selling opportunity to the great unwashed masses, and you got a room full of people down the hall here that you're going to sell get rich and real estate to, and that's one of the ways they disqualify themselves. Is I've been in 15 other things, and I never got rich. In part because I never did shit. And I'm not going to do shit now. And they're going to go home, and the spouse is going to say, you did what? You haven't done shit with the other 16 things you got out there. He's got to be able to tell himself and her why this time this is going to be different. And then if you go back to the magnetic marketing speech, there's a bunch of reasons why this time this is going to be different. Right down to, so I can do one of them. I can't do the whole thing anymore without notes. It's been too long. But I can do one of them, and that is, these are fill-in-the-blank letters. In some cases, all you got to be able to do is put your business's name in the right place. You don't have to think. In fact, it would be better if you didn't. Just take them home, fill in the blank, get it in the mail. Guy says, well, before I had to think. This time will be different because I don't have to think. Great. Okay? See, that ain't in there by accident. That's in there because of this. So here's 4 magic words. They're on page 32. This is the single add-on. This is the bridge to stopping disqualification. No matter what your circumstances are, your history is, no matter what. And so I think I gave you on 33 is still one of the best all-time ads in its category. It's done by a guy named Ross Jeffries. Contemporary, it's probably one of the 50 best direct response ads ever in contemporary times, and definitely in its category. And it has the no matter, so here's the amazing seduction secrets of this improbable guy that you would think could never get any action. And they'll work for you no matter what your looks or age. So the main qualification somebody does, and a mistake that a lot of the how to do well with women gurus make is they show their pictures and they're pretty good looking. And guys immediately go, well, yeah, but I'm 68 and I'm ugly. This ain't going to work for me. So this no matter what statement immediately addresses the main way these prospects instantly disqualify themselves. And without it there, readership of the ad would be a lot less. Hijack 7. Is reverse reality. So you have to create a different reality for something when it is one of these things. If it is too familiar, then it is fundamentally uninteresting. Been there, done that, another one of those. Or it's too scary to them, or it's too incredible, it's too unbelievable, it's too demanding, too much work, it's going to take too much time, etc. Or it's too complicated to understand. If it is any one of those things, most people will instantly reject it. Just as if I get a box of something home from Best Buy and I take the instructions out and it's more than like one side of a page, it's in the trash. Why is that in the car? Well, it looks like you just bought that. Why is that in the trash? Look at the instructions. Oh, I'll do it for you. I don't want you doing it for me. I'm just pissed off that I'm not going to do it, and it's in the trash. It's too complicated to understand. Screw it. Which is why we don't have a DVR, we don't have Netflix, we don't have... So if it's any of these things, a bunch of people will instantly reject it. Keyword instant. Because remember, everybody's system for buying is not to buy. Everybody's system for action is procrastination. That's what everybody's system is. About everything. So if you go into a store, even if you went there hoping to find something, and the clerk says, "Can I help you?" what do you say? "No, thanks, I'm just looking." Why the hell do you say that when you went there to get something? All right? Because your ingrained system is to do nothing and buy nothing. So instant happens easily. By the way, if you have retail stores and you let your people use that script, you should be shot. Because we know what the reaction is going to be to that script. We know. 9 out of 10 people are going to say, no thanks, I'm just looking. So run some kind of experiment to find a better script. I'm sure Ari can give you a better script, right? Because that script don't work. People do it at car dealerships. You know, the poor kid waiting in the ups line. Guy comes in, can I show you some cars? No, I just want to look around. Wrong opening line. So there'll be instant rejection. If it can be, he will. So somehow, excuse me, third day, we have to change the reality of what it is if it is any of those things. So I'll show you an example from what I'm working on for Jeff, and then I'm going to show you some controls. So page 35, just take a quick look at this. In fact, actually read that whole page for a second. All right, enough. Can anybody tell me what it is? You haven't got a prayer telling me what that is. And I have reversed its reality. So its reality is you, the doc, are being put in a sell a diabetes treatment program business, in a diabetes treatment in a box, which is then administered by their back office, not by you. That's what this is. And you are actually buying the kits at wholesale and reselling them at retail. I have reversed the whole reality. We will pay you for the use of your list. That's because you're going to send all the marketing shit we give you to your list. It's all based on internal marketing. I have reversed the whole reality. It sounds like we're paying you. Actually, you're paying you because you're buying something for X and you're selling it for Y. We're going to pay you for the use of your list. Actually, you're paying you for the use of your list. I've reversed what it is and thoroughly disguised it. And I go quite a ways before in the lead generation piece, I never fix it. The reverse reality stays intact. The first time I start to unwind this perception, the first time I start to climb out of the hole I have dug for myself is in the full-length, long presentation they've requested. By the way, I'm perfectly willing often to dig a very deep hole and climb back out of it when I have to reverse the reality. So I'll show you a couple of controls. These are now going on 8 to 9 years with each one of them. This is a check mailer. It's personalized to the recipient. The check shows through the window on the envelope. So this is attention, person's name. Part-time finders are needed in, that's the person's town. You can earn finder's fees of $3,000, $5,000, even $15,000 by doing some simple research on your computer. And then a bunch of this is about how you're going to get real checks, and they're going to come to you by FedEx, and you'll be excited, and this is all about the finder's fees business. There is no reveal of what this really is on the entire first page. The second page, which you have, S37, there's no reveal on the second page. The artificial reality I have created remains in place until you actually get to the website. The reality is this is get rich in real estate. The reality is this is finding properties that can be bought out of foreclosure or from highly motivated sellers at prices so deeply discounted that you can flip them to wholesale investors. And there's a website after you, so you find them on the computer, and then when you get them, you put them on the computer. And you can do it all sitting on your ass at home. But the reality is, this is the get rich in real estate business. Because once you find it, between the time you find it and you put it on the computer to unload it, you got to buy it. And you're going to own it. And if you don't unload it right away, by the way, you might want to put a tenant in it. And some number of them you might want to keep. And on and on and on and on and on. This not only works with general opportunity seeker lists, this thing killed with dead real estate investor lists. So this worked in 2008 when all the get rich in real estate guys folded up their tents and went into hibernation. All the teams were off the roads, nobody, webcasts stopped, it all died. We took their list, ran this against it, and did fine. Here's another version of it. It starts on your page 38. This is a self-mailer. So right side up is the self-mailer sign. How to earn $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 in one afternoon to simply find certain things, houses, that are hidden in plain sight. The back of that is how to create a secret second income almost overnight. You can start tomorrow in your spare time. No reveal. Your page 39 is the first interior page. There's no reveal. This is a tweaked version of the same finder's fee pitch. Which you do. You find it, and you get it, and somebody buys it from you, and you earned a fee. The big part left out is that it's houses, and you got to like buy them, because that's pretty scary. Think of everything that's wrong with that. It's scary. There's a lot of been there, done that. I already got a course on the wall with the shrink wrap still on it. So I've wiped all of that out of my lead generation in one fell swoop by changing the reality of what I'm talking about. Because they don't have a finder's fee course. And getting finder's fees for looking something up on the computer doesn't sound very scary. If they can't do it, they got a 12-year-old. It's about time that kid earned his keep, right? So there's no reveal anywhere on this page either. Your next page, which is 40, there's still no reveal. Now, there's a bunch of stuff from yesterday's list all in here. If you want to play the game when you go home, you can find a bunch of them. We have to explain why, for example, and it's right here, why there's these rich investors who will let you make so much money by just finding something for them that presumably they could have found for themselves. We got to explain that, right? So in case you haven't noticed, rich people are surprisingly lazy. They have other people do everything for them, even walk their dogs for them. In New York City, Central Park is full of professional dog walkers. It's unbelievable. Also, the rich investors I'm talking about are busy. The guy says, okay, I get that. Rich people are lazy bastards. So, okay, I'll take their money. No reveal. 41. There's a 3-step wealthy finder system. There's just 3 steps. Find it, post it online, get paid. And you do it on a website we give you. You don't even have to go set up the website. It's set up for you. There's no reveal. I don't start crawling out of this hole until they come to the video. That's when I start crawling out of the hole. This is not in your manual, but this is another one of the control pieces. And there's something particularly interesting about this control piece. So this control piece this is actually a ripoff of a Harvey Brody campaign, by the way. So this is, how would you like to make, so we tested like 20 headlines. This is the winner. How would you like to make money in big chunks fast? And the front of this looks like this. Big money in big chunks. Same thing, there's no reveal. I dig a hole about what it is, total alternative reality, until I get you to raise your hand and say you'll pay attention. Now here's what's really interesting about this. So I was very confident this would be the winner with the opportunity seeker list crowd. The people that read Home Business Opportunities, they've been to Get Rich in Real Estate seminars, the people who come to the preview on the bus. I'm pretty sure this is my winner. It's also the winner with the Investors Business Daily subscriber list. And I wrote a bunch of saner, seemingly more adult headlines. This beat them all. This is the winner with dentists. Now you would think, and I know you would think, and I would think too, and every time I start to think that this crowd has to be saner than I am proven wrong. Right? So this is the winner with all of them. Here's somebody else's current control, and this is all going to investment newsletter lists. This is the $10 retirement plan creating millionaires. A select group of Americans are retiring with a little-known retirement plan whose advertisement by issuers is censored by Congress. This is all offline to online, just like mine. A select group of Americans, yet this plan enables, because here's a case of this guy, and her mother built a $65,000 portfolio from this plan. You could withdraw your money at any time. If most people knew about it, Social Security wouldn't even be needed. It invalidates everything else. So unlike mainstream plans like 401ks or IRAs, these are perfect for people that want to start with $10. And here's your video. Here's your site to go see the free video. All right? And there's actually 3 plans. So there's even 3 of these whiz-bang things. Now again, you got a relative, you would think they'd fall for this in a hot second, right? My brother, oh yeah, $10, I can afford $10. Millionaire, I'm in. You wouldn't think the guys subscribing to Investors Business Daily would, and we'd all be wrong, right? Because that's exactly what they'll respond to. And this is a split test winner, by the way, against a saner, more explanatory thing about what this is. So the alternate reality is a good trick when what you're doing falls under any one of those things on the list we started with. It's a better approach most of the time, even though you dig a hole you have to climb out of, than is trying to describe the actual thing with any degree of accuracy, particularly at the lead generation stage, because it's too easy to instantly reject it. Okay? So 10:05, 15-minute break, puts us at 10:15, 20. 10:20, please. And we still have 4 things to give away. So we're still going to give something away at 10:20.